So just to summarize briefly, we've got these three key systems: the endocrine glands, the sympathetic system, and the sensory nervous system. And notice that I put the pineal and Leyden glands in there within the endocrine system because he said those are the seat of the soul. There's something special about these two glands. In reading 294-142, he said the genitive organism is as the motor and the Leydig as a sealed or open door. Hence, these may literally be termed that the pineal and the Leydig are the seat of the soul of an entity. Okay? The Leydig is the Leyden. Don't get those confused. It's the same gland, and I'll show you. I'll discuss that in a moment. Okay? Now, the trick is about this pineal. Not only it's a very interesting gland. It's right in the middle of the head. It's suspended down into one of the ventricles, into the cerebrospinal fluid. It's not bilaterally symmetrical like all the other glands and tissues of the head. It's its own little entity there. It has a nerve running right through it. And in adults, it's calcified. It's like a rock. You know, so if someone says to you, have rocks in the head or whatever, at least they're anatomically correct, for most of us at least. And so we have this fascinating gland, and during Casey's time, he said it's a gland without apparent function. In other words, medical science hasn't really found out what this gland's about. It's not apparent yet, but believe me, it's important. And then he went on to describe how it's involved in growth and development and mental processes and on and on and on and on and on. What I found when I looked at the medical literature was, yes, they've rediscovered the pineal, and now there's tons of research articles and stuff on the pineal, and I've documented that in one of my books, okay? Very important. But he says, not only is it a gland, not only is it right there in the center of the head, but he said there's this aspect to it that's like a cord or a thread or a nerve. He used all those terms, and he said it runs through the whole system. Comes down the spine, and that's that connection between the pineal and the Leydig and these centers along the spine, okay? So he said the cord that is eventually known or classified as the pineal is the first movement that takes place of a physical nature through the act of conception, determining eventually, as we shall see, not only the physical stature of the individual entity, but the mental capacity also and the spiritual attributes. Pretty important little chunk of calcium there, huh? And its cord, okay? Fascinating idea. Now, remember I pointed out those centers, and I said this cord somehow relates to those spinal centers that are so important? The pineal center is engorged. He actually called these centers along the spine where these sympathetic ganglia were enlarged. He called them pineal centers, okay? The pineal center is engorged, especially at the third and fourth lumbar. Remember the lady in the Revelation? There we have it again. And the first and second cervical. The pineal, which runs all the way through the system and is the governing body to the coordinating the mental and the physical. He used that word govern a lot when talking about the pineal. He actually said it's the governor of the brain forces. Now, that's the pineal, okay? So that's one aspect of the seat of the soul. The other is that Leyden, the mysterious Leyden or Leydig gland. Well, it so happens, he said, you'll know this because you can identify this gland because it was discovered by somebody and they gave it its name, okay? And the person who discovered the Leydig gland was Franz von Leydig. But not only did he discover the gland in 1982, but he discovered the cells of Leydig in 1850. Now, it just so happens that the cells of Leydig have been rediscovered. And it took about 100 years. Medical science rediscovered them, and now there's a tremendous literature on the cells of Leydig because they secrete testosterone and various other things, okay? So they're important endocrine glands. Medical science has not rediscovered the Leydig gland itself, okay? So here's the seat of the soul that's sitting there in us, and it's been discovered, and Casey talked about it, but it's not been rediscovered. So that's something that may happen in our lifetime. That's a fascinating thought. Well, what is this Leydig gland? In reading 281-53, he said the Leydig gland is the same as that we have called the Leyden and is located in the gonads. That's the question, okay? The answer. It is in and above, or the activity passes through the gonads. Leyden is the meaning or the seal, see? Remember the book of Revelation and all those sealed glands and so forth, okay? While the Leydig is the name of the individual who indicated this was the activity. You can call it either of these that you want to, okay? So he's identifying that Franz Leydig discovered it. And they ask him in another reading, what is the Leyden gland and where is it located? Leyden meaning sealed, that gland from which gestation takes place located in and above the gland called the genital, see? In the male above the glands corresponding to the testes, in the female that above the gland responding to the testes in the male. Here in this particular case, near the size of a wren's egg. Nominally, it should be about the size of a small pea. Now, this was a case of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a major mental illness. This person was out of touch with reality. Their soul's connection to the body was disrupted, and they were having trouble focusing in the physical world. Okay? So they were in touch with some of these other realms because this Leydig gland was swollen up to about the size of a small wren's egg. Congestion there.